What I love about Reacher is he's off the grid. He's a character that really has his own moral code.
Reacher?
He has a great sense of responsibility and taking care of the people that can't take care of themselves, and he gets drawn into these stories. He is a wanderer. He travels.
I had in mind the idea of a guy who had had this incredibly dislocated life as a military brat and then a military officer, then coming back to civilian life, or in fact, in his case, coming to civilian life for the first time ever. But Reacher never settled down, you know, he never found something to do, so he's still in that first year, essentially. He's still on the road, still wandering, still seeing what he never had time to see before.
The idea that this man is without a master, he is in pursuit of justice. He is in pursuit of righting wrongs, and it is justice as he sees it fit, not as even the law might dictate.
Remember, you wanted this.
We all wish we could be Jack Reacher. There's no guilt. Whether it's on the right side of the law or the wrong side of the law, Reacher always does the right thing.
All of us felt that the first movie really introduced the character in a strong way, but that there was more that we could reveal about his backstory, that, you know, there could be at least some more internal experience of this person and what his choices have been in life.
When it became clear that we were making a second movie, and that's never assured, Chris McQuarrie, who's also producing the movie, and I went to Tom's house, and I took all the books, like 18 of the books, and I lined them up on his patio. And I took out one shot and put it in the back of the box, and we had just done that book. And we went through each one of Lee Child's books, because we've all read them, talking about positives and negatives and what would be hard, and do you want to shoot in snow, do you don't? What is attractive and tough on a movie basis from each book? And that was a delight.
The books are not sequential. You know, the books are completely standalone adventures. So you don't have to have read any of the previous books to understand this book. And so it was very logical that they could just look at them all and pick out the one they wanted.
Never Go Back, which came out only 2 years ago, was attractive for a couple different reasons. One, it's actually the best reviewed book of all of them. Now, these books have gotten fantastic reviews, but this one even ended up on the New York Times list of 10 best books at the end of 2014. It's that sort of beloved. Secondly, the characters of Susan Turner and Reacher's dilemma with the character of Samantha. Once, you know, Tom and I read that novel, those two characters afford us an opportunity to explore Jack Reacher in a way that is rare. I'd like to say we sort of debated about many different novels, but it was a pretty easy choice.
This is the second film that I've made with Ed Zwick, someone who I greatly admire. I think he's such a fine, fine filmmaker. We made Last Samurai together, and it was such a privilege to be able to make that movie, and for me, a privilege to be able to work with him again and have this kind of collaboration in this kind of movie with him. You know, he's someone who really, I think, understands a character like Reacher and really wanted to go in and embrace this world, and does it beautifully.
It's a fun genre that I felt has the possibility of being that and more, and yet had never done anything in that genre. I've obviously done things that have a lot of action. I've done things that are about characters and deep relationships, but never combined them. And when Tom called and said, would you be interested? My first response was, well, gee, I've never done a sequel before. I've never done a franchise. It's not anything that I might necessarily be inclined to think of doing. And he said, well, just read the book. And I did. And I saw within it the possibility of doing something that I've always wanted to do, which is to say, work in that genre and yet try to bring to it things that interest me just as much in movies having to do with the relationships among people.
I think the reason they approached us was because this particular novel has more relationships in it than most of the Jack Reacher novels. You know, he's got this involvement with Susan Turner, he's got involvement with this girl who could be his daughter. So what's interesting is you take this character, this classic American loner, Jack Reacher, and you put him up against these people that he could love, that he could become connected to, and what's he going to do? You know, part of the enjoyment of this was watching this guy, you know, who's really so comfortable being by himself, sort of be with these people that he comes to care about.
Go.
Why does he get to have a phone?
Hold on. You need to be quiet. Okay, sorry. I'm excited about this next film to see what is it that the audience is going to respond to in this next phase as we carry on. With this story, we're going to take it off into a little area, you know, with Turner and with Sam, you know, this dysfunctional family on the road. And then we're still going to give them Reacher and the satisfying kind of action that we have. And also you're going to explore, you know, part of America. New Orleans is featured in this. So that's also very much a character in these films. It's also how do I play with audience expectations, try to exceed those expectations, and also, you know, challenge ourselves as storytellers.
We knew we wanted to do Never Go Back, the novel, but we inherited a problem. One of the things we liked most about this book is Jack Reacher travels to Washington, D.C. to meet Susan Turner. Susan Turner's a major in the United States Army and has Reacher's old job. Now, the problem we inherited is their conversation started in a book called 61 Hours.
The initial contact between Reacher and Turner happens, I think, 2 books earlier, where he talks to her on the phone. And typical of Reacher, he just likes the sound of her voice. There's something intriguing. She's got this husky, sexy voice on the phone. And, you know, Reacher's got to be somewhere, got to be doing something. So he thinks, you know what, I'm going to go and take her out to dinner. Just like that.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe I owe you dinner for what you did.
Dinner? Well, take you
He's 5,000 miles away or something, and he thinks, I'm going to go and take her to dinner. So then for 2 books, he's trying to get to Virginia to take her out to dinner. And he doesn't make it until the start of this book.
The idea was to pick up Reacher literally at the conclusion of another story, the likes of which you hadn't seen, but he's in res in some way. But mostly so as to establish his relationship with Susan Turner, Major Turner. So it was incumbent on us to figure out a way to, in brief, because it's only the sort of prologue, to establish that phone relationship and to suggest that that's how this whole, you know, ball begins spinning.
Well, it's nice to finally speak.
Thanks for tipping us off to that sheriff.
No, I wanted to thank you for helping me out of a tight spot.
Oh, isn't that what Army folks do for each other, Major?
Ex-major.
Oh, once a major, always a major.
For the movie, they had to compress that into the opening sequence, which I think they did very well. I mean, you really get the feeling that it's not going to be the end of the world if he doesn't get there, but he really wants to get there, and it really comes across.
What follows is, you know, this story that he's drawn into, and really it's never go back. You know, he should not have gone back. And he gets drawn into this story to really work with her and help her out of a situation.
We're leaving enough shit over there now to start another war. Air Source was selling off the weapons instead of bringing them back to the States.
You can do all the research you want, and you still cannot make this stuff up. You know, there are things in this movie that people are going to say, oh, you know, surely that doesn't happen, does it? You know, evil corporations and this and that. Actually, yeah, it does happen. And what I've learned as a book writer is that the stuff that you feel is pushing it just a little bit is absolutely normal. It exists somewhere.
The way that I work on a story is we're just constantly going over it. You know, you have it, you've got the script, you're just constantly going through it, making sure that you leave no stone unturned.
We had worked with Tom before on Last Samurai, and the thing I love about working with Tom is that, first of all, he has no vanity when you're talking about script. He's not thinking about what's going to make his character look good or anything that many actors think about. He's only thinking about what's going to make this a great movie. And all of his efforts are about how can every piece of this pay off and how can you achieve the objectives you want to achieve in this movie.
He was very sensitive to the adaptation, but also bold about it in as much as exactly like I would want him to do. And I remember having a conversation with him right at the beginning saying, you know, do whatever you need to do. Because I firmly believe a movie is different from a book. It has different requirements. And therefore, Ed needed to have the emotional freedom to do whatever he needed to do.
Lee's a force of nature. I mean, the fact that he has, you know, not just created this genre, but has been so prolific, and yet prolific in this way that has managed to maintain audiences' interest over, you know, so many books. I think that's because there's something in these books that is a little bit of an anthology. It's not the same story over and over. Lee, because he has such an avid curiosity about the world and about different situations, has managed to keep this going and keep it interesting each time.
People just want a great story where people feel like there's someone who's just outside of the system, righting wrongs. And it's as simple as that, you know? It is a classic, iconic character that Lee Child has created. There's all these wonderful characters that move in and out of the film and in and out of his books. You know, each one is a different adventure, yet it's incredibly satisfying, I think, for an audience.
Shoot me! Shut up! Shut up!
The thing about Reacher is that it's not really a stunt movie. It is very grounded character film, but
Very realistic.
Very realistic, but the fighting is what you want from a film like this. So it's a crime thriller, and the thing about Reacher is that it has a very unique brutality.
But we're not using CG. We're not going beyond. We're doing something that's actually in the spirit of what movies were when they made great crime movies, which is the reality of the characters, the reality of the story is the same reality as the stunts.
We were never supposed to be shooting the rooftops of New Orleans. It was a much different sequence where they stayed on the ground the whole time. And they'd come out of the hotel and ran down the street.
When we got to New Orleans and Tom and I and Ed were walking around the corner, our minds immediately went to, it's the most cinematic location, this incredible French architecture, these very narrow streets, in this very old and beautiful section of the city. We should get them up on the rooftops with the beautiful New Orleans night sky and fireworks going over their heads. And then we just kept adding, what if there was a parade and thousands of people on the street and climbing up to the rooftops? It became the finale of our movie.
It's like we're inside the city and we're above the city. And at night with these lights, I think, you know, you look at what Oliver's done in terms of the lighting, and I think, you know, our set design, you know, we just got a great crew here.
It's also true that it's often the juxtaposition. There's a parade and it's festive and it's beautiful, but at the same time, above it, there's a very scary thing happening, which is the chase and is the climax of the movie.
It starts obviously with the director. Ed, you know, has a vision, and he gives you the sort of scope to work in it. He says, you know, this is what I want out of the scene, and then I just look at ways to try and build tension and keep within the story.
I'm really the only one who applauds. I think any of us could do that.
Shoot me and I let go! Put the gun down.
Put it down, Jack. I'm gonna put the gun down, Jack, okay?
Almost to your forehead, like you've hit the ground and you're coming up from it. Ready? Yep. Press into the ground and action.
What was really interesting is Wade created a very specific and thoughtful fight sequence that would be great on its own. I was thinking, oh, this needs to go fast, 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 and then I die, and then, you know, he kills me, and I get, you know, thrown to the edge of this building. And Tom's impulse was to actually let everything slow down, to raise more suspense for the audience, to ask more questions, to really make it feel like, I mean, we know Jack Reacher's gonna win, and he even said this, but we really want to feel the danger. We want to feel like that he could possibly lose.
It's a lot of fun, and I'm very fortunate to produce both the Mission Impossible movies and the Jack Reacher movies, because we're constantly smiling on set and talking about the difference between Ethan and Reacher. And it's not that hard to define. Reacher is much more brutal. Reacher is much more human. Jack Reacher wants to end a fight quickly. There's a great quote that Reacher has from the novels that Tom loves, which is, take your revenge first. You know, don't wait for the other guy to hit you. Hit him first, put him down, move on.
You look at me.
What am I supposed to say? Oh, right, that's right here.
Come on, that way.
guys!
Here. You should change that last line. Dude, you just found the building.
That's a wrap!
So did the hunter.
All right, well, let me just go first. Let me just say that for some of us, we've done this many, many, many times and been in this moment many, many times, and for some of us, it's our first time. It's never easy, and it's always bittersweet, because we've had real times together. I think the thing that I've learned, if I've learned anything, I don't remember the movies at all, but I do remember the people that I've worked with. It's a privilege to have been together. To us.
I can't really add to that other than just to briefly thank you for your professionalism, your best at your craft. Thank you for your spirit, for having fun, for your incredibly hard work. But most of all, thank you for making me look good.
I love movies. I love making movies, and it's the spirit that we all have together in doing this. And when you see that final product, I know it's not just me. It's all of us together, and I feel so privileged to work with Ed. This is our second one together, and I look forward to many more. You are a beautiful filmmaker, really an incredible storyteller, and I love your direction. This cast that we have here, I greatly admire all of you all and appreciate the team effort every single day. It was always the laughs and when we needed it, and the focus when we needed it. And Granger, thank you. I don't know how many we've made. I've lost count, but really outstanding. And all of you all. I can't, just every single day, I really appreciate it, and I hope you know that. I hope I hope you really know how much I appreciate it, and thank you. Very, very special. Here is to you. All the people that I work with, they think the same way I do, which is like, whatever it takes. It's not you can't do it, it's how can we do it? And that's the people I want to be around, who can create and can make things happen, are very productive. I make a lot of moves. I go to every single department. I'm working with all of them, and they know me, and I know them. And I'm really proud of what we've accomplished together on this.